Hey everybody, this is David here, aka Chessman, and I'm excitingly back making another video about the chess openings. Last few videos we've been doing the Roy Lopez. We're still on the Roy Lopez. There's a lot to cover, and today we're going to be covering the Breyer variation. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. And this video is a part of my series, A Serious Look into Chess Openings. That's the name of the playlist. And you can find this video and the others on that playlist, or you can look under my playlist, The Roy Lopez. So let's get into it. All right, so we're going to go over the Breyer variation today. So the moves that lead up to the Breyer variation are e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5. This is the Roy Lopez. Then we go with a6, bishop a4, knight f6, castles kingside, bishop e7, rook e1, b5, bishop b3, d6, c3, castles kingside, h3, and the move that makes it the Breyer variation is this next move, knight to b8. And if you want, you can pause the video and take notes. You can take all this down. These are the best 5 moves that white can play from this position, and these are their scorings. d4 is the best with a 0.53 advantage for white, all the way down to a3, which is a 0.20 edge for white. So there, it's pretty much drawn. But if you play the best moves. All right, so we're going to start with d4. So let me just do what I usually do. Okay, so we're going to be covering d4, bishop c2, d3, a4, and a3. Those are the 5 best moves that white could play. And we're going to cover 5 responses for each of them that black could play. Now, I'm not telling you how to use this information. I'm just giving you all the information I can, and then it's up to you to use your brain to figure it out. Maybe you don't need to learn all of them. Maybe if you're playing this with the black pieces, maybe you do need to know all of them. Like, you would need to know d4, bishop c2, d3, a4, and a3, but you may not need to learn all 5 variations for each one. Maybe just learn the best one, or if you don't want to learn the main line and you want to do a sideline, then learn one of the sidelines that we're going to be covering. And yeah, so it's all about strategy. That's what chess is all about, strategy, and you got to use your brain to come up with a strategy. All right, so first we're covering d4. And if white plays d4, black's 5 best responses are knight b to d7, bishop to b7, knight back to c6, c5, and e takes d4. E takes d4 is not recommended. That gives this, after the variation, it gives white 1.82 advantage, almost 2-pawn advantage. I could have made it where I only showed you the best lines, but I want you to see an example of what you should do when your opponent doesn't play the best moves. That's why I kept this line in here. So, because you need to know what to do when your opponent makes the best moves, and you need to know what to do when they don't make the best moves. All right, so the first move we're covering is, and I always cover the best move first. That way, if you only want to learn the best moves, then you get it right off. And if you don't want to see the whole video, you don't have to. Some people leave the best for last to make you watch the whole video. I don't do that. But you kind of have to watch the whole video anyways. Well, you don't have to do anything. But in my opinion, I want to know. The way I feel about it is I want to know all the information I can get. So that always, I end up watching the whole thing. So that's just who I am. All right, enough wasted time. Let's start the variations. Okay, the first variation after d4 is knight b to d7. And let me just highlight what we're covering here. That way, if you want to take notes, you can pause the video and do that. All right, so knight b to d7. The best move white could play is knight b to d2, followed by bishop to b7, bishop to c2, rook to e8, a4, bishop f8, b3, b4, d5, b takes c3, and knight to c4. This is the absolute best that you could play from both sides. This gives white a plus 0.18 advantage, which is hardly anything. So it is good for both sides. You can play this as white or black. All right. If your opponent doesn't play knight b to d7, the next best move they could play is bishop to b7. After bishop, and let me just highlight that. This is what we're covering now. All right, so after bishop to b7, the best you can do is go d takes e5, then d takes e5, queen takes d8, bishop takes d8, then knight takes e5, knight takes e4, knight d2, knight c5, bishop c2, knight c6, and knight e4. Again, this looks a little tricky, but this is the best. After bishop to b7, this is the best that you can do as white or black. This gives white a plus 0.48 advantage. So it's still pretty much an even game, but it's slightly better. It's about 0.30 better than the previous variation. So it's still pretty much nothing. All right, so that was bishop to b7. So we've covered knight b to d7. We've covered bishop to b7. The next move is, now this is where if you don't think you have the memory to learn every variation and you really got to pick and choose what to learn, I'd probably leave this one out because it's knight back to c6. Your opponent's probably not going to play that. The computer says it's an inaccuracy. But I'm going to show it anyways, just in case you want to know everything. Maybe your opponent will play that, maybe to surprise you. So if your opponent plays knight to c6, you should play a4. Then black should go bishop d7, and you should go bishop to g5. Then h6, a takes b5, a takes b5, rook takes a8, queen takes a8, bishop h4, rook d8, and knight b to d2. Again, these are the best moves that you can play after knight c6, and this gives white a plus 0.64 advantage. So it's a bit higher advantage than the previous variation, but it's still playable. So let's go back. All right, so we've covered 3 variations so far. The fourth best move that could be played from this position is c5, which is also, according to the computer, an inaccuracy, but it could be a surprise weapon. So I'm going to show it. All right, if your opponent plays c5, what you should do is d takes e5. Then black should play d takes e5. You should play knight takes e5. Then bishop b7, a4, c4, queen takes d8, rook takes d8, bishop c2, knight b to d7, and knight takes d7. This is after c5, this is the best that you can do from both sides. This gives white a plus 0.85 advantage, so a bit higher of advantage. So this is where, again, if you don't feel like you can memorize everything, you can probably leave this variation out. Again, I still don't see how you can leave it out, because if your opponent plays c5, you do want to know what to do against it. So chess is just one of those things. There's a lot to learn, and I think the more you learn, the better, the more your memory gets used to learning this much information. So it improves. I think. I hope. Or you might just get overwhelmed. So hopefully that doesn't happen too much. All right. So that was C5. Let's go back. All right. So the fifth best move, which is not good at all, is E takes D4. Your opponent may play it, and if your opponent plays it, then you should take back with the C pawn. Then the best black could do is play bishop to B7. You could play knight B to D2. That's the best move. Then knight B to D7, followed by E5, knight H5, knight E4, D takes E5, D takes E5, knight to C5, and knight takes C5. This, again, gives white a 1.82 advantage. So it's a huge advantage for white. So hopefully this kind of lets you know what you should do if your opponent doesn't play the best moves. And yeah. So any other move that your opponent plays besides these 5 moves is worse. So the Breyer variation is a good variation because there's really only 4 playable moves. And really there's only like 2 good moves. And there's really only 1 really good move. So yeah. So it's good variation because your opponent has to know what to do. And hopefully you'll know it. You'll study this information and learn it, and then your opponent won't know it. All right. So this is if white plays D4. These are all the 5 variations that could happen. So let's go back. All right. So if you don't want to play D4, the next best move is to play bishop to C2. This gives white a plus 0.40 advantage, and it just simply defends the pawn again. All right, so the 5 best moves that black could play are rook to E8, bishop to B7, knight B to D7, C6, and H6. And we're going to cover all of them. All right, the first move, the best move that black could play is rook to E8. If black plays rook to E8, then you should play D4, followed by bishop to B7, A4, knight B to D7, knight B to D2, bishop F8, bishop D3, E takes D4, C takes D4, C5, A takes B5. This is the best you can do from white or black. And this gives white a plus 0.35 advantage, so hardly nothing. So it's an even game. All right. So let's go back. If your opponent doesn't play rook to E8, the next best move is bishop to B7. If your opponent plays bishop to B7, then you should play A4, followed by knight B to D7, then D4, rook to E8, knight B to D2, bishop to F8, bishop D3, C6, B3, H6, and bishop to B2. Again, after bishop to B7, this is the best white and black can both do, up to move 16. And this gives white a plus 0.36 advantage, so just 0.01 more of an advantage than the previous variation, than the rook E8 variation. So it's still really playable. Let's go back. So we covered rook to E8, we've covered bishop to B7. Maybe that's enough. Maybe all you want to learn is the first couple moves. So you just gotta... my job is to give you the information. Your job is to figure out what information you want to learn. what information will help you in your game now. All right. So the third best move that could be played here instead of rook d8 or bishop to b7 is knight b to d7. If black plays knight b to d7, then white should play d4. Then black should play bishop to b7, followed by knight b to d2, rook to e8, knight to f1, bishop to f8, knight to g3, a5, bishop d2, a4, bishop d3. And this gives white a plus 0.41 advantage. So it's still pretty close to equals. Only 0.05 more advantage to white than the previous variation. So 3 great options. You could learn all 3 or just learn one of them. Depends if you're playing as white or black. If you're playing as black, you just need to know one of them. If you're playing as white, you should know all of them. So let's go back. So that was knight b to d7. The fourth best move that could be played in this position is c6. After c6, white should again play d4. Then black should play queen to c7, followed by bishop to e3. Then bishop to b7. Knight b to d2 again, then rook to e8 again, then a4, knight b to d7, b4, bishop f8, and bishop to d3. See, there's a lot of familiar moves going on, so hopefully you're watching the whole video, because even if you don't memorize it, you still get a general idea and you get some experience of which moves are good moves. Like doing bishop to f8 is a common move, bishop to b7, rook to e8, knight b to d7. Those are all common moves that you see in these lines. So even if you don't remember it verbatim, move per move, you can still most likely pick good moves. So, yeah. All right. So this gives white plus 0.68 advantage. So it's over half a pawn advantage, so it's something, but it's still pretty much a drawn position. So let's go back. All right, so if your opponent doesn't play rook e8, bishop e7, knight b7, or c6, your opponent could play what looks like a waiting move, which is h6. If your opponent plays h6, you should play d4 again. Then black again should play rook to e8. And again, you should play a4, followed by bishop to b7. Then a takes b5, a takes b5, rook takes a8, bishop takes a8, bishop to d3, e takes d4, c takes d4. And again, this also gives white a plus 0.68 advantage, so it's still pretty much nothing. I think white just has a little bit more center control because of the 2 pawns. And I think that's all it is. Which is something. It's something. It's over half a pawn advantage. But it's still playable. Alright. So basically you just need to play these positions and then just look at them and try to come up with plans. And then just feel which position you feel more comfortable playing. And if you can pick maybe 2 of them or 3 of them, then you have variety, and you can pick and choose depending on how you feel. All right, so those are all the options if white plays bishop to c2. So we're going to go back. So if your opponent doesn't play d4 or bishop to c2, the third best move that could be played in this position that white could play is d3. And this gives white a plus 0.30 advantage. So it's still real playable. It's slightly less of an advantage for white, but it doesn't really matter. All right, the 5 best moves that black could play in this position are c5, bishop to b7 again, knight to c6, c6, and knight b to d7. So all in this area. All right. So the best move black could play is c5. If black plays c5, you again should play a4, followed by bishop to b7 again. Then you should play bishop to g5, followed by knight b to d7. Then knight to a3. Oh, let me highlight this. So after knight a3, you should play bishop to c6. Then knight to c2, h6, bishop h4, knight h5, and bishop takes e7. This gives white a plus 0.28 advantage, so it's pretty much even. It's the best you can do for white and black. So you got to look at this position and be like, do I like it? Do I want to try something more riskier? Every line after this is more riskier because for black anyways, it gives white slightly more advantage. But this is the best for black. All right, let's go back. So that was c5. Second best move that black could play in this position, again, is bishop to b7. If black plays bishop to b7, white should play knight b to d2, followed by rook to e8, knight to g5, attacking this pawn. So rook has to go back, rook to f8, then knight to f1, knight b to d7, knight to g3, h6, knight f3, rook e8, d4. So this gives white a plus 0.39 advantage. Still pretty much nothing. You just got to take a look at it. I think I like this position better than the previous position for white anyways. And black, it seems fine. So let's go back. So that was bishop to b7. The third best move that could be played in this position is knight to c6. And if black plays knight to c6, white should play knight b to d2, followed by knight to a5, bishop to c2, c5, d4, c takes d4, c takes d4, knight c6, knight b3, a5, bishop to e3. And after knight to c6, this is the best that white and black can both do. This gives white a plus 0.51 advantage. So half a pawn advantage, but it's still playable. And let's continue. All right. Yeah, so you just got to look at this position and be like, do I like it when my knight's on b3, or do I prefer it if it's on g3? If you like it on g3, then you should probably play the last variation. But maybe you like how your bishops are. Yeah, you just have to take a look at it. Maybe you don't like how the a5 pawn is advanced. Maybe that makes you feel uncomfortable. Maybe that's good for black. Maybe you like this as black. But you just got to look at it and feel it out. All right, let's go back. All right. So the next variation we're covering, after we covered c5, bishop to b7, and knight c6. So the fourth best move that could be played in this position is c6. If black plays c6, then white should play d4 again. Then black should play knight b to d7, followed by bishop to c2, rook to e8, a4, bishop to b7, bishop to e3, h6, knight b to d2, bishop to f8, and queen to b1. So yeah, just take a look at this position, and if you think you like the way it looks, then maybe you're more comfortable playing this. But this does give white plus 0.58, so it should feel better if you're playing this with the white pieces. So, but you gotta look at this with the black position, and do you feel comfortable? And I think it looks all right. So let's go back. All right, so the fifth best move that could be played in this position is knight b to d7. Natural move. If black plays this, then white should play knight b to d2, followed by bishop to b7, knight to f1, c5, knight to g3, queen to c7, knight to h4, g6, knight h to f5, and g takes f5. So this is a tricky line, one you got to figure out, but this is only a plus 0.62 advantage for white. Even though he just lost a knight, there's an attack, and so yeah, this could be a good surprise weapon. So if you want the game to be more dangerous, then this could be the way to go. All right. So those are the 5 options if white plays d3. If white doesn't play d3, the next best move after that is a4. So white could play a4. The 5 moves that we're going to cover, the 5 best moves that black could play from this position is bishop to b7, b takes a4, c6. These are really the 3 of the only playable moves. I also am covering c5 and b4, but they're not very good. I'm just covering them again so you know what to do if your opponent doesn't play the best moves. That's the reason why I put it in this video. Alright, so if black plays the best move, which is bishop to b7, then you should play d4. Then knight takes e4. Oops, let me highlight it. After knight takes e4, bishop goes to c2, then knight to f6, then d takes e5, d takes e5, knight takes e5, queen takes d1, rook takes d1, bishop to d6, and bishop to f4. Again, this is the best you can play as black or white. This gives white a plus 0.21 advantage, so hardly nothing. So this is good if you're black. If you're white, then maybe a4 wasn't the best move to play. But again, it's not a big advantage. It's not a big decrease in advantage. Even the best move was only like 0.40 or something. I can't really remember. But so it's not a big deal. Still playable for both sides. Whoever knows the opening is going to do better. So you got to study up. All right, so that was if black played bishop to b7. So let's go back. All right, so if black doesn't defend the rook with the bishop, the next best move he could do is b takes a4, taking the pawn. If black plays this, then white should play bishop takes a4, then bishop to b7, queen to c2, c5, d4, knight b to d7, d5, knight b6, knight b to d2, knight takes a4, queen takes a4. And after b takes a4, this is the best that white and black can do. This gives white a plus 0.68 advantage. So it's not really great for black, but it's still playable. All right, let's go back. All right, so if black doesn't play bishop b7 attack, defending the rook, or doesn't take the pawn, the next best move that black could play is c6, defending the pawn. If black plays c6, then white should take. A takes b5, then c takes b5, then d4, knight b to d7, c4, bishop b7, knight c3, rook c8, c takes b5, a takes b5, rook to a7. And this gives white plus 0.72 advantage. So you get an active rook. And it's attacking the bishop. So you might be happy to get this if you're white. It's the 3 best moves. After this, the moves aren't pretty good. If you're not going to defend the pawn or defend the rook, those are really the only good moves. But I'm going to cover 2 bad moves, just so you know what to do if they're played. Alright, so if black doesn't play c6, the 4th best move is c5, which is a mistake, according to the computer. If black plays c5, the best that white can do is take the pawn. A takes b5. What black can't take back because the rook would be hanging. So bishop to b7 is the best move. Then bishop b takes a6. Bishop takes e4. Then rook takes e4. Knight takes e4. a7. Knight to c6. Bishop to d5. Rook takes a7. And rook a4. So this gives white plus 1.17 advantage. So a whole pawn advantage, more than a pawn. So it's not good for black to play this way. You should play one of the other 3 moves that we covered. All right, so we're going to cover one more bad move. So maybe you don't want to memorize everything, and you're like, you know what? When they play bad moves, I just got to know what the good moves are. So when they play bad moves, I just have to figure it out. So then you don't have to memorize this. But I think it's good to look at it a couple times just so you're familiar with what the tactic is. All right, so that was c5. Last move we're covering in this is if they play b4, which is also an inaccuracy according to the computer. If black plays b4, then white should play d4, then knight to c6, then a5, b takes c3, b takes c3, e takes d4, c takes d4, d5, knight to e5, knight takes e5, d takes e5. This gives white a plus 1.46 advantage, so almost a pawn and a half. So it's a pretty big advantage. So it's not recommended to play this as black, but if black does play it, at least you'll know what to do as white and get a big advantage. All right, so these are all the moves we're covering if white plays a4. a4. So the last move we're going to cover for white is if white plays a3. a3 gives white a plus 0.20 advantage. So it's an advantage, but again, it's hardly nothing. It's less of an advantage than the previous 4 variations. Previous 4 moves, I should say, since we covered, I think, 20 variations. So the 5 moves we're going to cover from this position if white plays a3 is knight b to d7, bishop to b7, h6, c5, and c6. Alright. So the best move that black could play, and I always show you the best moves, that way if you don't want to learn anything else, then I saved you a bunch of time. So the best move that could be played is knight b to d7. If black plays this, then white should play d3. Then black should play h6. Then c4. B takes c4. Bishop takes c4. c5. b4. C takes b4. A takes b4. Bishop b7. Knight c3. This is the best you can do as black or white, and this gives white a plus 0.21 advantage. So it's just so if you notice, these ratings do change. Like for instance, it's an A3. When I put A3, it said the rating was plus 0.20, but when I did the best move, it's actually plus 0.21. So you don't have to. It doesn't have to be exact. It varies, but it does. You just need to know how the general of how good it is. All right. So that was knight b to d7. So let's go back. All right. So the second best move that could be played in this position is bishop to b7, which is a typical move in this position, in these positions. If black plays bishop to b7, then white should play bishop to c2, followed by knight b to d7, then d4, rook to e8, b3, bishop to f8, d5, c6, c4, queen c7, and bishop d2. After bishop to b7, this is the best you can do as white or black. This gives white a plus 0.29 advantage, so 0.08 higher than the previous advantage, so it's still really playable. All these variations are playable in this against a3 that I'm covering, but I don't know, an edge is an edge, so it's better to have the edge than not. All right, so that was bishop to b7. So the third best move that can be played is h6. Black plays h6, then white should play d4, followed by knight b to d7, then bishop to c2 again, followed by bishop to b7 again, then b3, rook to e8, bishop to b2, bishop to f8, knight b to d2, rook to b8, and a4. After h6, these are the best moves that you can play as white or black. This gives white a plus 0.31 advantage. So it's still really playable, like I was saying. All these lines all these 5 moves are playable. You just got to look at the position and just, do you feel better in this position or not? Can you come up with game plans? Or you just need one game plan. But yeah, so you just got to use your feelings and maybe an engine, and you can figure it out. All right, so let's see, we covered h6, so let's go back. So next move that we're going to cover is c5. This is the fourth best move. If black plays c5, then white should play d4, followed by knight b to d7, then bishop to c2, bishop to b7, d5, c4, bishop to e3, queen to c7, knight b to d2, knight to c5, and queen to e2. So this is a bit of a closed position. If you don't like closed positions, maybe you want to avoid this, but it's still playable. It's plus 0.44 for white, so it's still pretty much an even game. So that's c5. So let's go back. Oops. All right. So the last move we're going to cover in this position is c6. If black plays c6, then white should play a4. Then queen to c7, bishop to c2, knight b to d7 again. Then d4, rook to b8, knight b to d2, rook to e8, b4, bishop to b7, and knight to f1. So you got to look at this position and be like, do I like it that all my pawns are advanced? Well, not all my pawns, but all on the queen side and the e4 pawn. Do I like that? It depends how you feel. To me, it looks aggressive. So aggressive can be good, could also be bad. So, but the engine says it's plus 0.57 for white, so this is an advantage. It's still like a draw. Someone's gonna have to make a mistake before someone wins the game, but it is an edge for white. And so those are all the moves we're covering. So we covered. Again, you can pause this video at any time and take notes, unless you can take notes while the video is going, which you'd be a pretty fast note taker. So we covered the Breyer variation. We covered these 5 moves and 5 moves for each of those moves. And so yeah, this should give you a pretty good edge in the Breyer variation. Learn all of them if you want, or just learn the best ones, or just look at all of them and just see which ones you feel more comfortable with. And yeah, the point is to have a ton of information and then sort it out to what you feel you're comfortable with. So that's what I'm trying to do here, and there's going to be plenty more videos. Let me just take a look to see if I know what my next video is going to be about. I just did the Breyer variation, which is over here. So I might stick right to the order and just do the next one, which is the Como variation. I don't know how good the Como variation is. I've never seen it before. I'm used to the Chagorian, I think the Karpov, but the Komov, I don't know what that is. It looks like it's bishop e6. But yeah, should be good. It says it's plus 0.54, so it's only 0.02 behind the Breyer variation. So very playable, according to the engine. And yeah, so that's going to be it today. Let me see how long I've been going. About 42 minutes, 43 minutes, not too bad, just right. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. And if you have any other ideas of, just to remind you, this video is in the series, A Serious Look into Chess Openings. It's a playlist on my channel, so you can do that. And you can watch the rest of the videos. This is also in my playlist, the Roy Lopez, so you can do that as well. And yeah, I hope you have fun. I hope this information was helpful, and I hope you have a great one. Bye.